Let's go there.
Not sure if we're live yet. Oh, hey, it looks like we are live on the Facehead.
All right, I'm gonna pop out of my little group chat over here.
You're in a group chat?
I was just my text to you at the beginning.
All right, well, we are live. Oh, I'm on both.
Just my text to you.
We're in a loop. There we go. All right, hello, welcome to Tuesday Night Live. Was I telling you, maybe this came up after our video last time, but it came up that the Wirecast, my studio thing, works with Zoom. Was I telling you that?
Yeah. Well, you were talking a little bit about it. Can you tell me more?
I cannot, because I have not done any more research on that at all yet. I was going to try to do that today, but I went for an epic long walk today instead. So there it is.
How long is an epic long walk? Is that like a marathon?
Okay, it's not that epic long. I overstate.
It was like the Iliad.
That's right, epic long. No, I went up and I walked to the church. And then I walked around and I came down Monrovia, and then I walked down 79th Street for a while. Then I went over to Casey's, and then I came back. I got a little beverage at Casey's, and then I came walking back. And
did you see any parishioners on the way?
Did I see any parishioners on the way? You know what? I don't think I did.
That's a rarity, because we're peppered all through the neighborhoods.
Well, I know. I mean, I saw some. I'm trying to think if I saw anybody. I guess people are staying at home or something, but people maybe saw me walking. I had my fun hat on because I need to keep the sun out of my head.
Your fun hat. Hold on. Which one is that?
It's the one that I got last year when I went on my cruise last year. It's kind of a straw hat thingy.
Nice.
Yeah.
So I have a question. Whenever you're buying a hat, do you think, should I buy this in black just in case?
Well, I do think, does it go with black? I do think of that. Yes.
Okay.
So,
I mean, turns out I've done lots of stuff, but I've never been a priest. I think my chances on accomplishing that goal is probably not going to occur. And hold on. There we go. Sorry, it's the beauty of when you try to get both your comments running. And it looks like Father Ashmore just realized that you're not there at the house.
That's right. I saw that too. Yeah. Hi, Father Ashmore. Yes, I'm over here at the church. And Michael, you were asking me why I'm at the church.
Yeah, I want to know. Why are you at the church?
Right. So we had our rehearsal, our penultimate rehearsal, our second to last rehearsal before, well, I guess it was our last rehearsal. We're going to record the Good Friday Passion reading, the gospel reading, and we're doing it on Zoom. And so I don't know if Michael, have you been to the Good Friday service here at Good Shepherd?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You know how there's kind of a choir of readers that read the Passion?
Sure.
Yeah.
Not to be confused with horse and chariots cast into the sea.
Right. That's something different. That's on Holy Saturday.
Yeah.
But we were trying to figure out, because, we have that, the ordinance, which has gotten clearer. I guess Governor Kelly kind of clarified some things.
Sure.
That we're still supposed to be 10 or fewer people. at our religious gatherings. So we have to keep our services, very small. Well, it's very hard to do a bilingual service with 10 or fewer people in the church. So what we're going to do is we are going to do the Passion reading as it has been done in the past in English, and we're zooming that reading and we're recording that. And then on the Good Friday service itself, the Spanish gospel will be read. So the idea is, if you want to hear the gospel proclaimed in English, you will just go to click the link and it'll take you to the Facebook and the YouTube video that will be ready by then, that you can watch it in English. Okay. So I thought that it would be good for me to record my part, because I play the part of Jesus. It's typically what happens in the Passion readings. I recorded it from here in the church because I thought it might be nice for people to see the church too. And I also thought that our rehearsal tomorrow was at 5, or our recording was tomorrow at 5, and we have confessions at 6. So I thought I meant to get there really quickly. So, but actually we're recording at 4. So I can, but it still gives me ample time. So that's why I'm over here in the church. And then I just didn't bring all the stuff back to the directory. So I'll just film in the church today. So that's why I'm here.
On location. Let's go local to Father Kent.
Remember, this is what the church looks like. Here it is.
If you've forgotten what our parish benches look like, yeah. Hello, Linda. Hello.
Hi, Linda.
Hello, Susan. What does that say?
Something about your comment.
Yeah. No, it's in a way it's kind of redundant for me, because whenever I'm united kind of with the Lord, the best parts of myself come out. And whenever I'm not, it's kind of a perfect example of like, why do I suck right now? I am just not getting myself right. And you hope, and you're hoping beyond hope that like the best parts of ourselves can come out. But how do we do that? So why don't we kick right back into our topic, Father Kent?
Sure. I was going to mention that Father Ashmore put, what's our policy on heckling via comments?
I think it's encouraged.
Well, yeah. All right, Father Ashmore, bring it, I guess. The co-host from our fireside chat. We got dueling co-hosts going on here.
Yeah. Father Ashmore, if you'd like to go ahead and submit privately some phrases that I have to sneak into the conversation, totally open. Totally open.
Like pickle, right? And yeah, hey, if you want to zoom on in, Father Ashmore, I'll just send you the link and you can just bop right in and your face can appear as well. So heckle away, I guess. 3 faces are better for heckling than 2 faces.
If you did not tune in last week, there was a couple of really exciting things that we talked about, namely the only way that anyone historically has ever grown in holiness, prayer. Go ahead, Father Kent, take it away.
Right. So you were doing so good. So we talked about prayer last week. I think my other camera angle is probably better. So we talked about prayer last week and how that's the key to, the key to everything. You were sharing right at the beginning. We are going to pick up. So we're going to kind of pick up where we left off last time. But before we do that, Michael, I'll have you talk about those earlier parts in the catechism, which I thought it was really good, kind of that basis for that eternal seed that you were talking about earlier. But if you want to follow along, here's our catechisms. So here's mine. It's all nice and torn up. I've used this thing a lot.
You can tell one of us used it much more than the other.
Well, I think I was saying this came out when I was a freshman in college, and Father Vince Crisci, now Monsignor Vince Crisci, was all excited about this new catechism. I was a freshman in college. I didn't know exactly what a catechism was, but he said, you need to buy it. I'm like, okay, I'll buy a catechism. So I've had this since freshman year of college, which was a long time ago.
Yeah, I used to be only a dog person, but now I can legitimately say I'm also a cat person. Okay. Dad jokes aside, we'll keep those to a minimum.
Hold that there, Father Ashmore. So we're going to be following along in the battle of prayer. So last week we talked about contemplative prayer and mental prayer and vocal prayer. And
Mhm.
this week we're going to talk about kind of like, yeah, that's all well and good, prayer and everything. But what happens when I have these battles? What happens if I have distractions? What happens if I don't want to pray? That's what we're going to kind of talk about, the meat of our conversation today. But you were talking earlier in the, earlier before we went on screen about the, I don't remember what catechism number that was.
Yeah.
Oh,
So
did I
there's a
say the
couple
catechism number?
pieces
It's
here.
we're going
First,
to we're going to start on number 2726 and following. So if you
yeah.
have it here, or you can put it into, you can just look it up on the online, Catechism of the Catholic Church, and either EWTN will come up, or USCCB, or the Vatican site. 2726 and following is where we're going to be.
Paragraph
Before
number,
we get
not
to that,
page.
yeah.
Paragraph number.
Okay.
One thing that we just want to, at the risk of being redundant, vocal prayer is either out loud or silent, but it is thinking in the form of words or speaking words to the Lord. This is the most basic form of prayer. We experience it most frequently as Christians within the Mass, given the responses that we're supposed to say, as well as the ones that we hear from the priest. These are all extensive vocal prayer. Vocal prayer does not have to be out loud, though. So this can be, I'm just talking with the Lord inside of my mind, and I'm just saying, "Oh Lord, this is just overwhelming. Please give us the words, give me the ability to handle this difficult situation that I find myself in." But it's usually vocal prayer is either silently to yourself through just thought, or out loud speaking words to the Lord. It is more of a give than a receive. This is kind of a baseline requirement. If you don't do this, you can't kind of move to step 2, which is meditative prayer. Okay. And when we're talking about meditation, we're not sitting on a log out in nature, legs crossed. This isn't
Transcendental meditation, or whatever
yeah,
that means.
this isn't trying to commune with nature. This is essentially taking the gospel scriptures, some level of holy writing, some level of intricate prayer, and reading it, taking it in. One of the most commonly known forms of this is called Lectio Divina. Feel free to check that out from last week when we talked about it. But I wanted to give kind of a matter and form for what's a system by which we could try to grow in these first 2 levels of prayer. So this is one that I did recently. It's called 33 Days to Morning Glory, a do-it-yourself retreat in preparation for Marian consecration. So a lot of times in the Catholic Church, we talk about consecration to the Sacred Heart of Jesus, or consecration to Mary, and really dedicating our life and putting ourselves into the care of our Blessed Mother, or directly to the care of the Sacred Heart of Jesus. And this 33 Days to Morning Glory is a phenomenal little resource, because what you're able to do is, over a 33 days, you can see here there's recommended start times that end on Marian feast days. Right inside the cover here, you can get this online just by plugging in 33 Days to Morning Glory. The guide, I think sometimes if you get them in the right times, they can be free. Otherwise, you might have to just buy the book. I would recommend it either way. But this is a great way to entrust your the weight of being to the higher powers of God, and to allow Jesus's intercession to come into your life, namely through the consecration to his Blessed Mother. And it's kind of like a lot of people say, I'm a mama's boy. Definitely. I'm definitely a mama's boy. Mary has never led me wrong. There's some phenomenal people out there that have great devotions to Mary. But yeah, this is just one of the more entry level ways to start participating in both vocal prayer as well as meditation. Now,
yes, I did that several years ago. It was really good. And I really found it to be a great help. I remember I did my consecration day on January 1st. I think I started about right around Thanksgiving, which led me right there to January 1st. It was a great way to start off the year.
Now, once you proceed past level 1, which this is kind of an entry level retreat as far as Marian consecrations, you want to step your game up and go to, I need something a little tougher. There is a full consecration to Mary through the form of St. Louis de Montfort. And
which I think this one is based on, isn't it?
Well, only a quarter of this is based on that.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay.
This is a combination of 4 different consecrations that was pioneered and piloted by Father Michael Gately. And is it Father Michael Gately? Right?
Yeah.
Is he a priest?
Yeah. Yes. It is. Yes.
Yeah. But what's so nice about this is kind of a good way to get started. Once you've started to develop these habits, though, of vocal prayer and meditation, the third level of prayer, and at the risk of being redundant from last week, we talked about this, like vocal prayer is the dating, meditative prayer is like the thinking about the date after it occurred and saying, wow, that was, oh, man, now you're just starting to lose some sleep. Level 3, which is many times this is not accomplished by anyone but saints. And oftentimes there's spiritual gifts that are bestowed on people that succeed in the third form of prayer, which is contemplative prayer. Can you list some of these? Padre Pio's was bilocation, right?
Oh, sure. Right.
What was it? Who was the ecstasy who had experienced these?
Teresa of Avila, probably.
Teresa of Avila. There was levitation in some saints that's been recorded, and there's truly amazing things that happen.
Yeah, I don't think that's necessary. Yeah. I mean,
you're not pursuing these things. So like you're saying, I'm going to become Catholic because I want to be one of those floating guys who buy.
Yes.
Well,
that'd be like tier 17 or so.
Yeah. It's past 3. But whenever you have really become somewhat accomplished in vocal prayer and meditative prayer, contemplative prayer is like adoration, would be a good example of this. On an entry level is just staring at your beloved. The Lord loves you greater than anyone else in the universe. And when we start to grow in that love for him, this contemplative prayer changes us. It is, the Song of Songs, how beautiful you are, my darling. Show me your face, let me hear your voice. Sweet as the dew in the early morn, like a lily among the thorns. It's poetic, it's beautiful, and it's just, at that point, it becomes a silent form of prayer, where you are just soaking in the being of the friendship and the relationship that you have with the Lord.
Yep.
Now,
go ahead.
All of these are good. But what if you can't stay focused long enough to accomplish any of them?
Are you throwing me the softball there? But before we get to that, I was just going to mention a little bit more of that contemplative prayer. It's kind of something that comes after, you've got this practice of vocal prayer, you've got this practice of meditation. And then I was talking about Groundhog Day, I think last week, about how, wasn't I talking about Groundhog Day?
Again?
That was today.
Feels like we just had this conversation.
That's right. We are in Groundhog Day. But there you try to force the love. Or there was another movie, I forget what it was, but they were talking about being in the zone. It was a baseball movie about how this pitcher was pitching this no-hitter and a perfect game, and he was in the zone, and nobody wanted to interrupt him because he was in the zone, right? And that idea of being in the zone, that's something perhaps kind of like contemplative prayer, that you can't force yourself to be in the zone. You can't force yourself into be in contemplative prayer, but you set yourself up so that those moments of being in the zone or falling in love or those things, whatever, that happens because of the practice of vocal and mental prayer that you have established. Nobody gets in the zone. No one throws a perfect game if they haven't spent years and years and years practicing. Then they find themselves now I throw a perfect game, and I was in
Yeah.
the zone. So
Well said. It's without first establishing a baseline of a relationship, it would be like, I mean, with the Lord, expecting to have like giant spiritual fruits from the first time you've talked with him in 20 years. Yeah, it's probably going to take a little bit of time and a little bit of effort on both of your parts to reunite.
right,
Now the Lord is waiting there. I'm not saying that it can't happen,
right,
right? But to expect something from prayer when you don't know how to do it because you haven't practiced it, and to say, I'm going to this well expecting to come back with a bucket full, no problems. This bucket's going to be full no matter what, because that's what I get when I go prayer. He gives me this. We're treating him like an ATM, and that's not what the Lord is. He's desiring relationship with us to know and be known.
Very good. Well, let's jump in then to our topic of the day, then talking about 27, 26, and further. It talks about these kind of erroneous notions of prayer. So it talks 27, 26 about something, as it says there, it says people regard something as something else that they have to do. And then they say, I don't have time for prayer. Many of us, not everybody, I understand, I get it. But many of us during this time have had a little bit more time on our hands. And so we've had some more time. And that excuse might not hold up right now. Again, there's plenty of people that are really busy. I'm a little bit busier than I thought I was going to be during this time, doing all these live streams and stuff. But there, for many of us, there's less running around. There's less to do. You can't go to the restaurant. You can't watch the ball game. You can't. I mean, you can stream Netflix and CBS All Access and all those things all day and night. But there might be some time. Mostly when we say we don't have time, it's actually we don't have the desire, and we haven't set that aright.
Yeah, it's also the same thing as, like, when you're missing breakfast. I don't have the time for breakfast. Most people don't say that. They usually say, I skipped it. Right? It wasn't that breakfast wouldn't have been good. Had it been some sort of like, the continental breakfast that was made for them fresh by a professional chef, I bet people were going to show up for that. But we don't look at prayer sometimes as the master of the universe, the Lord of all, is waiting for me. And
was I sharing with you that time? I don't remember if I've shared with that conversation, but I don't know if it was here or another stream, but they're all starting to run together. But I remember when I was we had vocation day at various high schools and stuff, and we'd go in and we'd talk about our vocations. And I went to a vocation day at Aquinas. Is this ringing a bell?
Yeah. Hold on. Is this the confession story?
I don't think so. This is where the girl called me out.
Maybe not. No, I don't think you have told me this one.
All right. So I was talking about how in my former life and what I used to do, I used to be dance and theater, and someone asked me, do I ever do that anymore? Do I ever like do dance or ever do theater or anything? And I said, no, I really just don't have time to do that anymore. And some girl in the class called me out and she said, my sister's a religious, and she says she has time to do it if she wants to do it. I don't remember if she said exactly, you do have the time, Father, you just don't make time for it. But it was a beautiful way to call me out, and I've tried not to use that excuse ever since, because it's an excuse. I do have time. I don't want to. That's a better way to say it. I don't want to use the time that I've been given to go to ballet class. I have better things to do with my life. So not I don't have time. I have the time. I choose not to do it. Same thing with prayer, really. For us to say, I don't have time, that's not really true. We have other things that are priorities. And I think that's good for us to name it and claim it, to say, why aren't we praying? I don't have time to pray. Yes, you do.
I gave all my time that was designated for prayer to watch Netflix.
Right. Or to other good things. I mean, to caring for kids or doing this or running kids around. Those are all important things. Sure. But just name it and claim it. You say, no, my children are more important to me than taking time in prayer with God or whatever.
Yeah.
name it and claim it. That's what it
And
is.
it's hard to claim it because it then says I voluntarily self-selected not to do that.
Right.
And I claim that God is a priority in my life, and I claim that he's the Lord of my life and he's the savior of my life. But man, why don't I talk to him? Why don't I talk to him?
So my challenge then, here you go, Terry, you've been saying you want more challenges. My challenge to you is don't use the excuse really ever with I don't have time. Better substitute I don't wanna. I have chosen other things in my life.
I don't wanna.
I don't wanna.
I don't wanna. Yeah.
Why aren't you praying? I don't wanna. And that's harder because then we can get more at the root of then, well, why don't we want to? What is there about our prayer? Because that then leads us into to a better solution. Because if we just wait until we have time, again, some of us have had some time given to us now with this whole COVID-19 thing. Generally, though, it's not going to come. We have to make those decisions to say, I am going to pray. So that's kind of step number one.
Now, let me just ask a question because we're in the introspective sandbox right now.
Okay. What a fun sandbox.
At what point in your life, maybe it was before you had a call or maybe it was after you had a call to the priesthood, at what point did you voluntarily self-select to start making prayer a priority?
I think I continue to. I'll be honest. It's something that I have to continue to self-select as well because I've got the distractions like anybody else, right? So there's plenty of things that I can do that I get occupied with other things. So I don't think that there was a moment that I said, "Okay, now I am choosing prayer." I didn't choose prayer very well yesterday, and that's part of like the examination of conscience that we should do at the end of every day. Is like, I didn't choose prayer very much. My prayer was kind of ho-hum today. I didn't give the time. I didn't do my holy hour. I didn't do the liturgy of the hours as devotedly as I should or whatever. So I don't think I can say, oh yes, when I was a second year theologian in seminary, then I chose prayer.
I guess, was there a specific kind of prayer that spoke to you and that was maybe a turning point for your faith life?
Adoration for me, really.
Yeah.
Just spending time in front of the Blessed Sacrament, that's a game changer for me. So.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. It's nice to have the Blessed Sacrament over in the rectory now, and I've spent some more time there. I need to spend some more time even so. So Father Ashmore's very good about being there. He's often in that chapel, and I love it. He's a great prayer. So I need to be better. So yeah, don't think of this as like me preaching. If you're like offended, like he doesn't have any kids, what does he know? You're right, I don't. But I mean, I have
a whole parish of kids. You got a whole parish of kids. Okay, so the next part of this distractions of prayer, I guess you could say, or battles of prayer is the habitual difficulty. This is paragraph 2729. The habitual difficulty in prayer is distraction. It can affect words and their meaning in vocal prayer. It can concern more profoundly him to whom we are praying in vocal prayer, meditation, or contemplative prayer. Yeah. To set about hunting down distractions would be to fall into their trap, when all that is necessary is to turn back to our heart, for a distraction reveals to us what we are attached to.
Yep.
I'd rather walk the dog. I'd rather watch the rest of that Netflix show. I'd rather eat the rest of that bag of chips than take this to prayer. Those are all fantastic distractions, but it also then delivers to us maybe what are some things that we've maybe placed on a smaller scale an idol that has taken place in importance above God.
Right. Yeah. Very good. We didn't mention this, but we if you have any questions for us, or if anything that we're saying doesn't make sense, or if you're like, hey, I'd like to apply it in this way, we have comments. I'm watching both the YouTube and the Facebook streams. There doesn't seem to be anybody watching on YouTube though, so I keep checking over there. But there's one watching, and I think that's me.
Nope, it's me.
Okay, great. How's it going over there?
Oh, should I comment?
Oh, Michael, that was so brilliant. Wow, you're so smart.
Really great
Michael.
comment, Michael. Thanks, Michael.
So then it goes on in 27:31. It talks about dryness. Sometimes people say that that's a battle that they have in prayer, that they're not getting anything out of it, or that their prayer is really dry. And of course, that's where we start. The starting point is we don't go to prayer to get something. You were talking about vending machine God. That's not the point of prayer. The point is communing with God.
Vending machine God. Does he take credit?
Hey, Terry, you're here. I just referenced you. I see you joined. Very good. You missed my point. I threw it right there. I gave you a challenge. You have to go back and watch it later.
Why don't you restate that challenge just one more time?
Okay, so I said my challenge was I challenge you never to say I'm too busy, but always say I don't wanna instead.
Yeah.
Or I have other things that are more important to me than whatever it is I want to say I'm too busy. It's not the case. Everyone has the exact same amount of time. And so anyway.
That's a hard one, especially if you're like, I have things I have to accomplish before my end of work day.
Sure, right? But that
I'm too busy in order to come and do blah, blah, blah.
Again,
I've got the office.
It's not necessarily to make us feel guilty, but it's just for us to examine, because if we're saying that we're too busy, it doesn't say anything. If we say, I have chosen, or I know that work is a priority, that I need to get this done, otherwise I'm going to get fired. Yeah. What are your values, right? So I do value my job. Yeah. I've got to do this for my family. But it gets to a more honest answer, I think, of, okay, this is why, is because I have chosen my vocation, right? I chose to get married or whatever. Sure. We have children. I have to support my children. All of those things, those are all good and noble things. Sure. And so, but then there's other things that are not so good and noble. And those are sometimes things that we can say, but I spent 45 minutes doing this that was really a waste of time. And I just need to reevaluate that. So that's another.
I was going to crank out that rosary, but I watched 45 minutes of cat videos on YouTube.
Right. Those are very.
Why did I do that?
Anyway, dryness. It talks about dryness. And sometimes people think that my prayer is really dry. I'm not getting anything out of it. But as the Catechism says in 27:31, it uses that image of the parable that Jesus tells about the sower going out to sow some seeds. Sure. It says, if dryness is due to lack of roots, because the word has fallen on rocky soil, the battle requires conversion. I like the way that it says that, that we sometimes think, well, my prayer is really dry or whatever. It might be really dry because we have not converted our whole hearts and our whole lives to God. Now maybe I keep forgetting all the things I've talked about, but I've got some analogies here that I know I've talked about before, but I don't know if in this context. Have I shared about my college class where they do the trust walks and everything? Have I talked about that? Okay.
No.
So back when I was in college, I did theater and stuff, and we were doing these trust walks, and we start, if you've done a trust walk or whatever, you have someone blindfolded.
They blindfold you, then they spin you around.
And then they take you by the hands or whatever and walk you around and just say, trust me or whatever. Have you done that kind of thing?
Yeah, we did it in the woods out at Tecawitha when I was a kid.
Okay, great. Well,
I was in the first camp.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Very good. Well, so then they wanted to continue to build on that trust. And so then they said, just listen to my voice and let go of the hands and then just follow me. And then you really had to trust that voice was not going to lead you into a bad place. Well, then, so we started off in the classroom, and then we went outside, we were walking around. And then I remember my partner who I was working with that day, had me go across the street and said, now I'm still blindfolded, and she crosses the street and says, okay, when I say go, you go. And so I crossed the street blindfolded, trusting that she was leading me correctly, right? So
Was this like, this wasn't a country road. This was a normal city street.
but no, it was a University of Kansas. So it wasn't a
Yeah.
major, I mean, it was I think it was Naismith Avenue,
Yeah.
which is
Yeah.
not the busiest street, but
It's pretty
there's
busy.
cars, right? So, anyway, I use that analogy sometimes of when I was blindfolded and listening to this voice of this other person to build that trust. She moved further and further away from me so that I would come closer and closer, right? So sometimes God does that for us too. When we're called to listen to his voice, sometimes it feels like God is so far away from me. But it's not because he doesn't love us. It's because he wants to build that trust and have us do great things or stupid things, but in the context of the college class. But he doesn't call us to do stupid things, but he calls us to do great things. And I mean, I guess I can say that I crossed a street blindfolded when I was in college because I was completely trusting the voice of somebody else.
Yeah. I think that we shouldn't do that like in youth group or anything.
No.
Yeah. But what I think about that, like in the context of the life of Mother Teresa.
Exactly. Right? Another great example.
40 years of, I don't feel you, Lord. I can't feel your presence. It's not there. Wherever you are and wherever I am, these are not the same place. And again, that vigilance, and it says it in positive terms, the battle against possessive and dominating self requires vigilance and sobriety of heart. We have to come to this day in and day out, whether we're feeling it or whether we're not. It's the same as eating healthy. It's the same as breathing. Just imagine a life where you don't get to go to the bathroom.
We don't, what?
You don't get to go to the bathroom. There's no longer toilets anywhere. You no longer have it.
I don't want to imagine.
You're going to feel a great sense of urgency to need to find a bathroom.
Okay.
And we should feel essentially a desire and an urgency the way that needing to find a bathroom at that time, right? Because I mean, if you've ever been in the car and you're like, this next exit had better show up soon and there had better be a place, right? That is a comical reflection, but that level of, that's the type of desire that we should be called to, is that I
thought my analogies were weird.
Yeah, well, I may or may not be getting lines over here from Father Ashmore of things I have to fit into the context. May or may not. I'm going to use that whenever I have bad analogies. But the point is, we should be pursuing the Lord the way that he is pursuing us. And he is waiting.
That's great.
He is waiting for us. The way that mythical bathroom out on the side of the road is waiting for you when you really got to go, right? He is waiting to receive us, but we got to get there. We got to get there. We got to get there now. And especially during Holy Week, where we're called out of ourselves and to go into this moment of dryness out in the desert, hungry, tired. I don't know if anybody else out here thinks that this was the lentiest of all Lents.
The lentiest of all Lents.
Yeah, I mean, in my opinion, I'm a retirement planner. I did a 24-hour fast as part of 1 day a week. I didn't honor it the entire time. I was doing it 1 day a week up until essentially fourth Sunday. But then gave up drinks and also gave up some stuff of like expecting new things from my spouse whenever she was already kind of spread thin between all the kids. So trying not to rely too heavily on her for additional stuff for myself. And then we have coronavirus, so you can't leave. We have a bear market. So, market goes down, creates significantly more phone calls for us retirement planners out there. But the Lord puts these additional pressures on it. And honestly, my prayer life at this has shot shut up as opposed to shut down, where other times, right? But I think that's the kind of response that we need, is like God is putting additional pressure on every one of us in new ways. And he's also removed a lot of the distractions. Again, distraction being one of the things that are an object of prayer. So at this point, one of the most common yet hidden temptations is our lack of faith. It's thinking that in a sense that all of this stuff that we're talking about, this Lord that loves us above all things, that created, ordered, mastered the entire universe, is not there. What if this was all just one of these elaborate hoaxes that's been going on for 2,000 years? And you got me, Father Kent. You old so-and-so. And that's an exposing of one of the final obstacles, which is the most common, which is just a lack of faith. Of I don't believe that he's there and that he loves me. And if you and I could agree on one point tonight, it's that is the most untrue statement of all.
Which is what?
That he is up there and he doesn't love me. He doesn't care about me.
That's the worst thing you've said all night. Good job.
I try not to plateau early.
Right.
But that's the kind of stuff that we have to deal with. That's part of the human condition, right?
Yeah, right. So yeah, and then the one other thing that comes out of that same paragraph that you're talking about, that lack of faith, is I love this phrase. It says in the Catechism, it says, when we begin to pray, 1,000 labors or cares thought to be urgent vie for priority. That is one true statement. I can testify that through much experience. When we begin to pray, 1,000 labors or cares thought to be urgent vie for priority. I can't tell you how many times I've sat down to pray. I'm doing my holy hour or whatever. And then all of a sudden I was like, oh yeah, I got to send that email. Oh yeah, I've got this phone call I need to make. Oh yeah, I got to do this. And the temptation is I got to do that before I forget. Otherwise I'm going to forget. And what the vigilance and the diligence calls us to do is to say, no, I have made priority for God. Now it might mean, sometimes people recommend that you have like a little notepad there or whatever. You can take a little note saying, okay, I need to send an email. And then when you leave your prayer, to go do that. But I think that it's so often the case, and again, I'm guilty of this too, right? Is we forget that appointments with God are like appointments, and we sometimes blow off as like, well, God can take it. I really need to go call this, or I really need to do this, or whatever. But I would never do that if, like, when I'm meeting with a marriage prep couple or whatever.
Sure.
I do not answer the phone. My phone might ring. I'm like, I am in an appointment. I am not going to do that. Or I'm at a wedding, for crying out loud. I'm not going to say, oh, wait, pardon me. I got to go send this email, right? Time with prayer.
Here, could you guys hold these rings? I got to take this call.
So we don't do that with anything else. We sometimes think, and I'm guilty of it too, is we think, God can take it. These are important things. But I think that happens in other relationships too, right? Don't spouses, sometimes, doesn't it happen in marriage too, with it's like, oh, I'll get to you later. These kids are more pressing, or I got to work now. I'll get to you later. You can take it. You're always going to be there.
Or my kids come in and say, Daddy, come push me on the swings. And I go, I'll be right there. I just have one more thing to do.
Sure.
And that one more thing is perpetual. There's always one more thing waiting for us.
Sure.
Especially in the for-profit world. They want you to work as long and as many hours as you possibly can in the for-profit world, because that's what it's there for profit.
Right.
But
right.
our time in order to conform our lives to God and to relinquish kind of our control of our most precious resource back to the Lord, and know ourselves on the other side of this, it's so limited. Hey, do you want me to share that part that I wanted to say with the seed of the eternal part?
Let's save that for another time. I think I think
All
we're
right.
kind of, that might, we'll pick up that next time.
Okay.
I think would be best. Yeah. That was going to be the introduction, but now we've moved past the introduction. So now,
Yeah, no, I was just thinking about it as like but why do we do this? Why do we do this, right? I mean, the goal is to know ourselves the way that God knows us and to be reunited with our purpose here.
right.
So
That is that founding piece, and that maybe would connect. Is that the starting point is that God has initiated this relationship with us, and He just wants to spend time with us.
yeah,
And do we respond to that? I sometimes, all these things I've talked about before, but I don't know if I've talked about it in this context. Talking about mass, in normal situations, it's an obligation to go to mass. Now it's not right now. Never in my life did I think that I would experience that. But sometimes people say, I don't want to go to mass or whatever, or I'm too busy or whatever. And I sometimes talk to people to say, think of church as the family dinner on Sunday or whatever. And you might not want to go there, but your mom or your grandma wants you there. And you go, maybe not because you want to go, but because your grandma wants you there. And if you love your grandma, that should be enough. And it's like, I don't want to go, but grandma wants me there. I'll go. And so I sometimes think we should think of God as like our little old grandma who, if she wants that, do that. And how many?
I've never imagined God the Father as a little old lady in the whole life.
Well, there you go. There's a little nugget for the day. But isn't that true though too? Is that how many people? And again, I'll say me too. We say I need to go visit mom, or I need to go visit grandma, or I should call that person, or whatever, and we just don't. And too many other things come in the way. It's the same thing with God. Too many times we say I should pray, or I should take some time with God. Well, do it, right? God wants that relationship with us, and He started that relationship with us. And He just says He doesn't need to be fancy prayer. I mean, when I go over to grandma's house or whatever, my grandparents are deceased, but when I go over there, they don't expect a symphony. They just want me to be there, right? I think that's what I think of. So
one of the things that I mean, obviously, the most common thing that I hear from people, at least when we talk about God, is like, what's the point? Right? What's the point? But at those same people are like, I just want to be happy. How do I become happy? And oftentimes I think when we reunite ourselves with, this all starts from I have a premise. I have a thought here, a theory, if you will.
okay, good.
That when people forget God, they tend to forget how awesome they are. Okay. So I've met a lot of people that are just kind of unsure of like, I'm sure He's up there. I don't think He knows me. I don't really know Him. Yeah. We'll be all right. If I need Him, I know how to call Him, historically He seems to pick up for people. This is good. But more importantly than that, I think most people want to be awesome. I think people don't want to just be like, well, He's pretty good. Like, I think people want amazing, want superb, want exceptional, right? When people are trying to take that picture of the dinner that they work so hard on, they don't get out like the old point and shoot film and like, crick. I'm going to go ahead and take this picture and then set it on the counter. And no, they've got their HD lens out. They've got it set up right. The lighting's perfect. And people want superb. People want extraordinary, but they forget that exists within themselves.
Yeah.
And I'm going to do two things, and then we're good to say, Michael, that's enough.
Okay, sounds good.
All right, two things. I am going to use it because I think it's relevant.
All right.
So if you go to paragraph 33 in your catechism, this is talks about the human person. So with His openness to truth and beauty, His sense of moral goodness, His freedom in the voice of His conscience, with His longings for the infinite and for happiness, man questions himself about God's existence. In all this, he discerns signs of his spiritual soul. The soul, the, quotes, seed of eternity we bear in ourselves, irreducible to the merely material, can have its origin only in God. This is paragraph 34. The world and man attest that they contain within themselves neither their first principle nor their final end, but rather that they participate in being itself. Now, if you remember from the Old Testament, God says to Moses from the burning bush, I am
who am.
I am who am. And it was basically, I am, have always been, and will be, right? It was the way for God to address himself as I am the eternal being who has always been and was always was. But rather that they participate in being itself, which alone is without origin, and thus in different ways, man can come to know that there exists a reality which is the first cause and final end of all things, a reality that everyone calls God. And so there's this eternal reality that lives within all of us, which is called our soul. At some point, the more that we water that soul, the only way that we can water our soul to grow and to become more united with God is through prayer. The three means that we talked about were vocal, mental, meditative, and contemplative. But why? Why should we do this? My kids in my ear are always asking why. And part of me wants to say, don't ask why. I don't have time to answer that. But that's laziness, right? That's me avoiding becoming the dad that I could possibly be. So I think it was said very, very well. Most recently, I heard this in a Jim Caviezel gave a reflection on why he has a devotion to the Blessed Mother. But he recited this poem called God's Hall of Fame by Alf Hutchinson. And we can put it in the show notes after. But this is, for everything that we've talked about, this has been a good why for me, and I've taken this to prayer over Holy Week. Your name may not appear down here in this world's Hall of Fame. You may be so unknown, few even know your name. Fame and fortune pass you by and are given to a few, but if you love and serve the Lord, then there is good news for you. This Hall of Fame is only good as long as time shall be. But keep in mind, God's Hall of Fame is for eternity. To have your name inscribed up there is greater, yes, by far, than all the Hall of Fames down here and every man-made star. This crowd on earth, they soon forget the heroes of the past. They cheer like mad until you fall, and that's how long you last. But God, he never does forget, and in his Hall of Fame, by just believing in his Son inscribed, you'll find your name. I tell you, friend, I wouldn't trade my name, however small, that's written there beyond the stars in that celestial hall. For every famous name on earth or glory that they share, I'd rather be an unknown here and have my name up there.
Lovely. It's good.
That's all I got.
Okay, well, I think that's we're out of time here. So thanks so much for tuning in. We will close up with a prayer. We'll be back next week. We're going to continue on with prayer and just kind of go through this catechism part 4 a little bit more. And it's Holy Week here, so hopefully you can make it to our services here. We got a bunch of stuff going on in the church, even though it's not really open to everybody here. But we will be live streaming, so tune on in. So 7:30 on Holy Thursday, 7:30 on Good Friday, and 8 o'clock on Holy Saturday are our Triduum services, and then Easter Sunday, 10 o'clock and 12:15 are Easter masses. And of course, those are on the Facebook and the YouTube, so if you can't watch them at those times, you can always watch them later. Let's close with a prayer then, and Michael did our opening prayer, so I will get us closed out. Oh, I'm looking at the wrong camera. Let me just get to the right camera here.
Well, if you didn't have so many cameras, you wouldn't get confused by this.
Oh, dear. All right, let's pray. Heavenly Father, we thank you for gathering us here. We thank you for the opportunity to take time. We thank you for the gift of time that you have given us to really build our relationships with you and with our brothers and sisters. We ask that you will encourage us, be with us, help us, guide us, so we can grow in our lives of prayer and our lives of service, that we may see you and strive to live, to be the people that we are called to be, to strive for that excellence, to strive to be with you one day forever in heaven. We know that our goal is not here, but in the life to come. Help us to build those things that will really last. We ask all this through Christ our Lord.
Amen.
Amen. All right. Well, thanks so much. See you next week. This is where we have our outro music. So you got anything there? Yay!
End it. Would you end it already?
End it.